What up, do everybody? Welcome to the Black Prospector Show. And as I say, hello, party people all over the world, homeboys, fly guys, and pretty girls. And speaking of pretty girls, I have my cuz joining me today, Sheila. Sheila, welcome to the Black Prospector Show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Devin.
It is an honor. I have to say, I've said it on more than one show that I normally am not worried about having women on my show because y'all have enough of your own platforms, but I could not do this show certainly without thinking about you. Because as you know, I hit you up last night because y'all, what we're going to talk about is the death of Kevin Samuels. And there's no one that I have talked about Kevin Samuels with as much as you. So I want you are representing all Black women today. How does that feel?
I feel a lot of pressure right now, and I just hope I do Black women justice today.
Oh, I got a feeling. Oh yeah. We'll see what the comments have to say about you. No, but
absolutely.
Really, needless to say, audience, I have no idea who Kevin Samuels. Well, I know who Kevin Samuels is. Kevin Samuels never had an idea who I am. But today, ironically, is the birthday of my son. And my son, we call him Reggie. And the reason is because he was named after Reggie Jackson. And so when I was a young man growing up in the 70s, I was a huge Reggie Jackson fan, and my parents really told me to kind of watch how Reggie handles himself. And so if we go back into the mid to late 70s, Reggie was on television. He was one of the few Black ball players that was on, usually the teams he was with, they were out of the playoffs by then. And yet he was on there commentating on the playoffs and the World Series. And to see a Black man at that level, and my father would always point out how he talks. And then I even started that's how I learned to hit left-handed. So I could hit like Reggie because he was a left-handed hitter. I wanted to play right field like Reggie. My point is, here it is, I named my son after this guy who, despite what my kids think, I've never met, Reggie Jackson has no idea who I am. But yet that's the impact he had on my life. And here it is, as a dude that's about to turn 52, I can say Kevin Samuels has had that same impact. And here it is, he dies a day before my son's birthday. So I probably won't forget that day. And I've talked about Kevin Samuels on this program over a course of videos. If you stay around to the end of this video, I even have a link to a video that I did where I even asked the question, why does Kevin Samuels resonate, or why do Black men have, I'll say they have more of an ear for what Kevin Samuels says than they even do the Black preacher in the 21st century. And so, there's a link to that video. And, certainly click on that one if you like to hear some of the details. But, it's also been because of Kevin Samuels that I learned about another man that's had a tremendous impact on me, Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. And I'm going to tailor some of our conversation today outside of the great relationship talks that we always have, but also the impact that he had on Black masculinity. But before we get started, I talked about setting up and why we're doing this show, but give us an introduction to who is Sheila and why is she in a position to be on the Black Prospector Show?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's see. I don't know. I like to just define myself as I'm someone who's always seeking truth and purpose and living my best life, as they like to say. I really just want to look for balance and do what I was called to do. I think you brought me on this show only because once you introduced me to KS, I was doing my dating and I wasn't very successful at it. I'm still single, so I'm still not that successful at it. However, what he was saying was very different from what I heard from other platforms. And it was initially hard for me to digest, but in listening to him, I had to take in what he was saying, and I applied some of that to my dating, and I noticed that my dating improved. And not only was it, I'm not going to say it was less frustrating because you still have to deal with the vetting process, but it at least was more fun.
So what improved? What made it more fun off of some of the things that he said?
So I think from going into dating, oftentimes we look at what does this person have to offer me? What can I get from this person? How do they add to my life? And I think with him really telling us what the Black man's perspective was, and me wanting to date Black, it forced me to listen to, that's my audience. What do they want? And now, do I have what they're looking for? Now, yes, I do have what they're looking for, but was I portraying myself in those attributes in the best light so that they could see it? Was I putting myself, quote unquote, on display for that, for them to recognize what I had? And I think that was the turning point. And I had to realize that what I value in a man is not what they value in a woman. So I'm very ambitious. I love my career, and I have been chasing my career for quite a while now. And I do okay with it. And I want my man to be ambitious, and I want him to have a nice career. However, they typically don't ask me about what I do. And I think it's because that's not as important to them. Of course, the topic comes up, but that's not at the top of their list of values for women.
So if I can, let's say, give a little bit of honor to Kevin Samuels here, I don't have the drop, but would it be fair to say if I played his classic drop of, I got a PhD, that would be pretty fitting for you? That'd be fair to say?
It would be very fitting, because I do have my DMP, and to be honest, I put off a lot of dating because I had to get my doctorate. I had to get my education. So a lot of what he said pertained completely to me as far as being a woman chasing her career and doing as much as she could to get ahead in life.
Well, let me ask you this. How tall are you?
I am 5'3".
Dress size?
I am a size 4.
What would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? You can't choose 7.
I can't choose 7. Well, I'm going to say I am a 6.99999.
Sound like somebody had that queued up in case they ever called the show, right?
Yes.
This is what you get when you mess with an educated woman. You were ready with that.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he would have appreciated those significant numbers too.
But let me go back. You said you were size what?
A 4.
Size 4. And you don't have to give your age, but give your age range if you like.
I am in the danger zone.
Danger zone. So a size 4, 5'3". I think Mr. Samuels would have been like, because he doesn't get many calls by women that would fit into that category. Usually it'd be more like a size 14. And you can always tell when he would ask that question, it's like, they already know what's about to come. Absolutely. They know what's about to come. So as you have now been out there navigating, give me a kind of an idea of, and you've mentioned how certainly his advice has impacted your dating life. What was it like before? And so do you know, are there any scenarios that come off the top of your head that you can say, you know what, previously before I listened to this guy, I would have responded or looked for this, but now at this point, I respond and look for that?
So certainly, let me see. So initially, when I first started dating before listening to Kevin Samuels, I was definitely, I need a man that's educated. He needs to make as much money as I make, if not more. He needs, of course, even though I always dated short men, I always was attracted to 6 feet tall men. So of course I was like, I want him to be tall because I'm sure it's for my children. And I wanted him to be smart, well-rounded, funny, pretty much everything that every woman wants in the quote unquote perfect man. And I think listening to Kevin Samuels, what he helped me understand is that if every woman wants that type of a man, then your competition is very steep. And you have to evaluate what you're bringing to the table, what you have in order to compete with these other women to get this. Not only that, but if that's what you want, you also are excluding a huge demographic of men who are interested in you, but you're not, because you're so focused on some of these shallow characteristics that men have. Or these, I shouldn't say that men have, but some shallow characteristics or desires and wants that I myself want. So I struggle with that again, because if all the women are chasing after these men, my dating pool is very small and it's very limited. Now you put on top of that, that I wanted to date. I was open to dating outside of my race, but if I'm looking at only Black men in the circles that I ran, there weren't that many Black men. It was predominantly white. So already I'm putting myself at a deficit. So once I reevaluated and I decided, okay, I'm gonna open my dating pool up to not just these professional men, but also blue collar men, because they bring something to the table that I don't have. They may not have the income, but they still have qualities and characteristics that are desirable. My dating pool opened up substantially, and I had more men I could potentially date. And so that's where it became more fun, because within each social class, we kind of hang out with our own type of people, right? So you get the same, they kind of like the same things to do. You know, it's going to be you're going to talk about politics, you're going to talk about education, you're going to talk about your career. So now that I've opened my dating pool up to, I'm talking to blue collar men and men who may not have the quote unquote education that I thought I desired in a man. Now I'm being exposed to a whole nother world, that it's fun. I'm learning about cars. I'm learning about construction. I'm learning about all these other different things that I may not have even considered. So my world is open. And I think that's the beauty in not limiting yourself with, I have to have these 3, 4, 5 specific things.
That's fantastic, because and just to let everybody know, I mean, this is why I had to have Sheila on here, because one of the things that just a couple of days ago, I was listening to a show and I could easily just ping her and send her some statistics on things we talk about all the time. And one of them, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and share my screen. And Sheila, you may remember I sent this over to you, and that was this one here, where, and this was from an article on a study, because of the increased risk women carry, they tend to be choosier about their partners. And then down the line, it says another study found that on the dating app Tinder, men like more than 60% of the female profiles they viewed, while women liked only 4.5% of male profiles. And so, you know, it's one of those things that hits, that really does go to show that, you know, the way that we choose, or how we choose who we're going to date, is totally different. Even when folks are out there on dating profiles, or like you said, now that you heard what he had to say, you opened it up to say, okay, I might be interested in seeing a whole group of guys that you may not have been as interested in seeing before, because all of y'all are really trying to compete. According to this, really, we'll be looking at what? 96.5% of the guys, or 95.5% of the guys, all of you are trying to date those same dudes, and to a certain degree. You know, that's just putting it in a very basic level. That's a lot of competition. And that gives those guys a lot of choices as well.
It truly does. And that's the thing that I had to realize too, was with me wanting to compete with those guys, or not compete with them, but at one point I did, but competing to get one of those guys, I had to realize that that's not who I am. Like what they required and what they wanted, in order for me to provide that to them, I would have to be someone else, because I just wasn't that person. So that was it was an absolute necessary thing for me to realize, because I would have had this idea of a man that I needed and this lifestyle that I wanted, and I wasn't being my authentic self. So I needed I needed to know that that's not the type of man that I ultimately want to end up with.
So why do you think, or let me back up, I want to get to this question, but let me give a setup to it first. How do most of your friends and family, how do they respond to the message of Kevin Samuels?
They don't like him.
So what don't they like about him?
They don't like the way he delivers his message. They think that he berates women, that he talks down to women, that he hates women, and that he is insecure. He has this huge ego, and what he's saying is absolutely has no ground because he doesn't have a successful relationship himself. He's not currently in a relationship.
Do you think that's a fair critique on whether he has a relationship or not, that he can't speak about such issues?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because what he's doing is, from my perspective and my understanding after listening to numerous shows of his, is that he's giving the Black male perspective on what they're looking for in a relationship and what they're saying that they're missing and what women aren't providing to them. So he's essentially giving you information for free on how to get what you want. So with him not being in a relationship, he may not want to be in a relationship, but he still represents the other men. Like, I've talked to these men and this is what they say that they want from you women. And I think his ultimate goal was to bring Black men and Black women together, for them to have marriages, for them to have children within a marriage, and for them to understand and appreciate what each one brings to the family unit. Even though his method, the way his delivery may not have been the best, I understood it, but it took me a while to get it. So
well, I was going to ask that. No, keep going with that, because I was going to ask you, why did it resonate with you? Why didn't you just be like most women and just put your headphones on and be like, la, 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 I'm not listening to nothing that you say?
Because, so I'm one of those people, I like to have a vast variety of options, information, resources, people in my life, because that's the only way you grow. So everything that Kevin Samuels was saying was very opposite of what I had been told about myself and about women being so great, and they're sugar and they're sweet and they do all these nice things and they're so innocent and sweet. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. We should get what we want because we're this, and it's up to the man, and it's a happy wife, happy life. And he didn't present that. He presented it as, okay, what are you women doing for your men? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I guess that's true. What can I do for my man? And it was, what can you do for your man outside of sex? Because here we like to just say, oh yeah, we know all men want sex, right? While the physical attraction is pretty high on a man's list, that's not the only thing he's looking for. So for me, it was, I'm a straight shooter. He was very straightforward with him talking to the women that were on his show and his messages. And it was very opposite of what other people were saying. He focused on women having accountability and being responsible for their own decisions, instead of just blaming, well, he did this and it's not my fault. And another reason he resonated with me so well, because of everything he said, as far as women give all this energy into their career, but they won't give this energy into their relationship or into their man. And I said, oh my gosh, that's me. Like, if a man didn't do, or he upset me or pissed me off, I was like, deuces, dude, I don't have time for this. And I would just dig back into my career. And that's not, it's not healthy. And it wasn't ultimately what I wanted, to have a career over having a healthy relationship and a family.
Wow. That's a lot to unpack there. That was good. That was good, because in a way I've noticed the same reaction with men as well, which always tripped me out, because one thing I always have said about women is that despite, even though you may have a separate opinion than your friends, you do not bash or throw your friends up under the bus. Guys will throw their friends, or somebody who is actually in their corner will throw those guys up under the bus in a heartbeat, even if they have maybe a little bit of a belief that what these guys are saying is true, but they'll still throw their friends up under the bus in order to get women. So what I mean by that, I think there are a lot of dudes out here, and I've even had, some back and forth exchanges with some guys that I would say the first thing they do when Kevin Samuels' name comes up, they would throw out a disclaimer. Well, I like him, but you know, he hasn't been, he's not married. In which, to me, that's already creating a false equivalency. Because I think while one end Kevin Samuels is pointing out that, you know, women buy a dog and die alone, that for men, we're worried about buying a dog and dying alone. And I even heard or read some things on Twitter where a lot of women, Black women namely, were saying, you know, look at the irony, he died alone. Well, one of the things I learned early on in my life when I started looking at older men that were dying alone, they were pretty happy. They were pretty happy. To which I even told my mom one time, we had a conversation. I told my mother, I said, you know what? I would be willing to bet you that that man was happier dying by himself, maybe even a few years earlier, than being married to the woman that he was with. And if he would have lived a little bit longer with her trying to take care of him. In other words, as I described to you in the past, we all know that guy that's that dog that's on the porch that when you go visit, he tied up like, would you either shoot me or let me go? Please just shoot me or let me go. You know, and so there are a lot of, I think some people want to quickly say, well, he's alone, he's not married. But that's by, I assume, the man's choice. Because once he went into the celebrity status, I don't think he would have had a hard time getting a woman if he would have wanted one. And the fact that he didn't get hitched up to somebody, I think says that for really a whole lot of dudes, it's only a certain segment of men that are truly worried and scared to be alone. And to me, that segment probably needs to listen to Kevin Samuels, because if that's the one thing that he was trying to teach men is you should be even man enough that you can be content being by yourself, working on your career, working on your goals, and you attract that woman if you want to. And if you don't, you still grinding and pushing anyway. But I found a lot of guys, even that's the first thing they wanted to do is distance themselves from Kevin, because they were worried that women were going to get mad at them if they agreed with his message at all, which just totally, it always made me mad.
Yeah, and I think it's because his message is very polarizing from what is presented in social media and in society and in culture as a whole. And that's, I think, one of those things that drew me to him, because if something is so polarizing, we always think everybody has to agree. But he's bringing and presenting a different point of view, but still looking to get the same goal. We say that women want to ultimately get married. It's their fantasy, it's their dream. And I would say maybe 85–90% of women really do. Some women are perfectly okay being single and not having a man in their life. But I think that's more of the exception than the norm. And with him bringing that other side, it just shows that you can have a different perspective. You can have different ways of achieving the same goal. And that's what I liked. And it's not about me. Did I like everything that he said? No. Do I think he was right in everything that he said? Absolutely not. But the message that he did bring ultimately was Black men and Black women, we can come together, we can get married, and we need to do work on both sides. And we don't need anybody on the outside telling us how to do it. We can fix this issue ourselves. And let's just be realistic about it. Let's stop having this dream. Let's stop shooting or overshooting for mates who are out of our league. And there's nothing wrong with that if you can provide and you can hold your own ground with that. But there's a lot of average people, and most of us are average, and we need to be dating that way versus us all trying to go for these elite men and elite women that only 10% of the population, that makes up only 10% of the population, if that.
Yes. I mean, I think that's why, and I knew he really was going to make people mad when he was asking, what's your dress size? You know, asking that, because we were even taught in society that you can ask a woman, you don't ask her age, you don't ask her weight. And yet it was so profound because he had the balls to go there. And in the past, most people did not have the balls to go there. But he went there because it's something that we as men think every single time we walk out the door. I've told my son since they were small, there will never be a more aggressive woman coming at you than an overweight woman, because she has nothing to lose. She has nothing to lose. And think about it. I mean, we as men hear it all the time. The woman that's a quote unquote dime piece, many of them feel alone because they say, well, guys are too intimidated to approach me and blah, 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 blah. Well, the woman that doesn't feel she looks that good, or the woman that's overweight, she is like, I'm going in kamikaze style. And it is that, as a guy, you look at it and it's like, you know what? I do appreciate her effort. But you do also realize as a guy, if you are overweight, fat, nerdy, what many women would consider ugly dude, and you go try to talk to even an average woman, not only is she going to reject you, she's going to reject you with some venom that you will probably not go approach many others after that, especially if you're a dude with already low self-esteem. And I thought Kevin Samuels did a tremendous job of always saying, if these are the rules of the game that you're going to play with, then it should be okay if us guys play with it as well. Like I told my daughter recently, she said something about, somebody and a bald guy. I was like, well, look, if a woman has a problem with a dude being bald, I can't gain my hair back, but she can lose weight. And so if that's a big stickler for her, then, let's put things in the proper context. You shouldn't be saying anything about a dude's hair because he can't help that. Just like you wouldn't want him saying something about you that you can't help. But if you have a standard of some things that you can help, and if weight is one of them, then I guess you shouldn't talk to certain dudes that look a certain way, or you shouldn't talk, and women don't. Y'all ain't really trying to kick it, because I got the other research up there. Y'all expect a man to make 58% more than what you make. So if that dude is approaching you working with, just say, a certain type of job, now let's call it, if the dude is working a Walmart job, how many women, I don't care how fine he is, how is he going to be able to walk up and step up to them? He goes up in his Honda Accord working at Walmart, be like, hey, how you doing? Even if he comes up nice, I ain't even saying he come up with the yo baby. Even if he just coming up there, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And you look at that 1995 rusted out Honda Accord that he was rolling in.
Can you afford me?
Exactly. And y'all have that standard. And I'll finish with this part because I do want to jump on to another point.
Okay.
My boy Mark always makes the point. Why was it wrong for Kevin Samuels to make the comments that he made about, a woman over 35 is lonely or whatever he might say? But yet we have songs. I don't want no scrubs. Scrub is somebody can't get no. We can make a song about what y'all calling a dude that's a scrub. Was it Pepper can come out there and say, I didn't want to get with Will Smith because he wasn't thug enough for me at the time. All of those things we say with, it's okay, yeah, that's how it is. And it's cool that KS came out and pointed out, was like, again, y'all say what y'all want to say. We're going to say what we want to say. But let me go to this real fast because you were leading here. The impact on the Black community. Because I think if people have an issue with what Kevin Samuels talked about on the relationship, I'm going to kind of put things in 3 different levels here. So we covered the relationship part. Let's look at Kevin Samuels' impact on the Black community, because I think they're separate. And I would never want to throw out what Kevin Samuels says about relationships, if for those who 100% disagree with everything he said. But how could they have a problem with what he was trying to do for the Black community? Case in point, when I listened to his show about Cam Newton, that's really where he went. He talked about the woman Anna on the Young Turks. He talked about some white guys on NBC Sports. And one of the first things he told them is, y'all need to get up out our business. What Cam Newton said about Black women and being a boss bee, that's in-house Black stuff. Y'all stay out our business. And I remember calling my boy and I'm like, this is why we have to protect this dude. Regardless of what he says, he is savvy and intelligent enough even to point out, I'm still about the Black community as a whole. What parts did you pick up from that in terms, and you were leading going into there, of the impact that he's just had on the Black community as a whole?
So, I actually didn't get a chance to see his interview with Cam Newton. I wish I would have been able to watch that, but maybe I can catch it later. So I think his impact as a whole on the Black community it's a great starting point. I know a lot of people don't like him. They don't want to hear what he has to say, but he brings up talking points of what work needs to be done in Black men, what work do Black women need to do so that we can heal our community and we can make it whole again. So at least it's a starting point of a discussion there, because I still think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And I don't know if people can fully appreciate his his message without doing the work themselves of looking internally at themselves to see how they are either contributing to the Black empowerment, the Black community empowerment, or how they are taking away from it. So I would definitely have to say that if they watched more of his videos and really paid attention to the message that he was sending out, that he's looking for the Black community as a whole to heal and to do our own thing, that we don't need validation from an outside source to tell us that we're doing it the right way. We can do it however we want to do it, and we can be successful at it. And I know that's what I took from it.
That's a great point. I think one of the things that surprised me, I've heard guys say that his show that he did, I think it was around 3 years ago, it was something to the impact or to the effect of things your father, your daddy didn't teach you. And first of all, when you look at what nearly 70% of Black families are headed by females, it's a lot of young men out there that need to be taught some things that daddy never taught them. And so thankfully, my sons have had me in the house. And so I even kind of laugh at the irony to myself. Long before Kevin Samuels, I was always telling my sons, you need to dress up. And my one to turn 23 today, we kind of laughed last week or so when he mentioned about me making him wear a suit on his first day of college. Now here, he's a homeschool kid. I'm like, you know what, man, you need to go in there looking this way, define your own style. And ironically, later on, as he was busting that suit, he wouldn't wear it every day to school. First, he gets to school and he's like, I realize there's people there in their pajamas. And here I am wearing a sport coat and stuff. But the main point was, don't be afraid to be different. Yep. And wear it well. Always be dressed above the everybody else in there. So whoever, if I'm going somewhere and it's business casual and they say, shirt, no tie, I'm going in with a tie and a vest. If it's a tie, no sport coat, I'm going in there with a sport coat anyway, and so I wanted them to have the same thing. And you could see Kevin Samuels bringing that down to Black men, because to me, Kevin Samuels just continued the work by another Black woman who got, let's just basically say, run out of the Black community, Shahrazad Ali. And Shahrazad Ali wrote into her book, 20 plus years ago, The Black Woman's Guide to Understand the Black Man, The Black Man's Guide to Understand the Black Woman. One of the things she wrote was that if Black men want to be taken seriously, they need to stop wearing tennis shoes everywhere they go, because only boys wear tennis shoes, because tennis shoes represent recreation. If you're a man that's about business, recreation is recreation, but business is business. And Kevin Samuels was now pushing Black men. I'm all about business here. I'm having a business discussion, which I think probably made women a little bit more mad because they couldn't go in on how he looked and how he carried himself. But I think it also gives a good lesson, because you as a woman, I'm sure you want a man to approach you that's all about business.
Correct. So just back to making sure that you dress the part and dress the role. It's not about, I just want to say, I don't think it's about putting on a facade or putting on an appearance, but it says a lot about what you think about yourself and how you care for yourself and how you love for yourself, and you can show up and present your best self. So you're absolutely right. It makes a huge difference in how you receive somebody when they approach you. Unfortunately, it's true that first impressions either make you or break you, but it's very true. And a man dressed in a suit who presents himself well, even if he wasn't dressed in a suit, but he presents himself well, he's articulate, he knows how to have a conversation, is going to be received better than a man who's coming and talking street slang, who's just shooting off some jokes, and you can't get a real conversation in. It makes a huge difference.
I have to ask this as kind of a side note. You said you're in the danger zone with your age.
Yeah,
how do you feel? Well, how do you feel when you see a man in some brand new Jordans or some expensive tennis shoes?
Oh,
that's approaching you to date, not just some dude on the street, but he may be trying to kick it with you, shows up for a date, and that's what he's sporting.
That's a good question. I think it depends So I'm always looking at the whole package and what they're presenting. So I think it depends on the type of conversation that we have, because he might just be a Jordan fan. So he has the newest ones and he can afford them and it's not a problem. Or it could be, he may not know how to manage his money that well. He just want to make sure he flossing with those Jordans on. So for me, it's how you present yourself as a whole and the type of conversations that we have. And then that's usually what I go off of on how I don't want to say judge a man, but whether or not where your value lies and what's important to you.
Let me ask you this. I don't know if you've ever, I mean, I'm sure like most people, you've probably been in a hospital before or doctor's office. And tell me in your experience, just from what you may know, why do doctors wear white coats?
Well, it's a symbol of professionalism. And also, I think over the years, it has become a symbol of power within the hospital, of authority and knowledge, wisdom, because you're coming to see me. You're coming to see a specialist or somebody who has authoritative knowledge on this subject.
So it's actually worn for a purpose. There's an impact that what we've been trained to see when we see that person in a white coat, or as you and I both know from being in the church, or anybody with religion, even for that matter, when you see, if you're in the Black church, you see the long robe with the big shoulders out to here, and you got the pastor coming in looking like a ghost. Or if you're Catholic and you got the Black with the white collar, we're all still trained to think something when we see a certain attire.
Correct.
And I go back to Kevin again, wearing that suit. I know a lot of brothers push back on that, but I think Kevin was playing on that no, men, when women see you in a suit, there's you want to portray a certain image, just like you would when you go to the doctor's office, church, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you and I both are in the business world. We know that people, when they handling business, they dress a certain way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that doesn't just go for men, but it goes for women too. I noticed that when I decide to wear a dress when I go out and run errands, I am received differently by men and women, as opposed to when I'm just in my workout gear and I'm running errands myself. It's completely different.
I remember asking you one time if you wore a dress when you went out to the store and stuff.
I know that was one of my goals this year, to make sure you dress up every time you go out. And I have failed miserably at that, because sometimes it's a time crunch and I can't get into it.
Of course. I do think a lot of the venom, when we look at, I'll say, you have a lot of celebrities that seem to take issue, and they mention Kevin Samuel's name and they're like upset. I think that, to be honest, I think a lot of them are upset. I don't think they care at all. Well, that's not fair. I will say, I don't think they may care as much as we may think about the Black community. But what they care about is that Kevin Samuels was taking some of their market share. And in my industry, we talk market share all the time. Everybody can act love. Oh, I'm so glad we're collaborating, doing something together. But they are always strategically aware of, is this person or is this company that I'm doing a joint venture with, are they going to take market share from me? Are they taking money out my mouth? And I think a lot of the people, and I told my friend this, I think it's going to be a lot of folks that are almost going to be, I think his name was Big Red in the 5 Heartbeats, where when he killed the guy, their manager, he came in the funeral like crying. And then he walks over to Diane Carroll and was like, basically, if you ever need something, you just come holler at me. And, she slapped him. And then he walked out like, oh, he had killed her husband. And yet now he's playing the role, trying to take that market share back. I'm here with you. And I think it's probably going to be a lot of people to do that with Kevin Samuels, because I don't think they had the Black community at their best interest, because they started watching him work on Black relationships. Because at the end of the day, I agree with you. His overall goal is to get the Black community back together and prepare all of us for relationships.
I agree. And even before his death, you saw a lot of people taking his videos and talking on his videos to get more views coming in. And again, like you said, taking that market share, I think trying to come to a middle ground when he was so polarizing is going to be difficult, because then it's going to be some sort of contradictory, because you can't sit there and say, oh, women, you're so great, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then where Kevin Samuels is saying, no, you women need to bring up your games and really start appreciating men. It's hard to meld the two unless work is done on both sides. So they're going to have to start speaking to both men, speaking to women, and being real with it in order for it
Yeah,
to work.
I remember he said that early on, that, and he was right, because I was rocking with him long before the Average at Best video came out, and he was talking about men as well, and he was getting on guys, but nobody paid attention to those videos. Nobody watched those, because if you think about it, and this is where I go back in on the black church again as well, what he was saying was really no different than what most folks hear when they go to church anyway. He was just another dude talking about men. All right, we got a ton of channels doing that. But when he started talking about women, wait a minute now. And a black guy looking sophisticated doing that too. But in the end, I think he does. I think he made us better. And when he would brag about the number of couples that were getting together because of him, I think it's some proof into that.
I think so. I think so too. I think I know he's impacted me in the way I think about relationships and the way I think about Black men and what I can bring to a relationship. so I'm hoping that other people will, with his passing, they can appreciate what he was trying to do and not just bash him for his delivery of it.
What do you think, especially with we talked about your family and friends that were not too receptive with his message? Do you think that they will be, I'll say, a bit more receptive, because someone's going to come along? I mean, again, Kevin Samuels is just building on what Shahrazad Ali built, what Patrice O'Neal built, and Patrice O'Neal passed away about 12 years ago, I think it's been. So there's going to be another with that message. Do you think that they are going to be castigated as well? Or do you think, at what point do you think maybe some of the ladies will be a lot more receptive to what he's saying or what he was trying to imply during his life? If ever.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I don't know. I think, again, it goes back to you being willing to do the work, being open to a different perspective, listening to and I like to look at it as your customer base. Like, what is your customer asking you for? Like, you're trying to sell a product, which is quote unquote yourself, to them to get this. So are you listening to them? And I don't know if they would ever truly change their perspective unless they're in a relationship and their significant other brings it to them realistically, that this is what I need from you. You're not giving this. This is what I need from you. And this is what I'm asking from you. I think that's what it's going to take.
Wow. I think listening to a lot of the men today on various shows, that's probably one of the big things we learned, is that he made a lot of guys a lot more brave to demand what they wanted, because we've been so much on the receptive end of hearing what our woman wants, what women want, what our kids want. And now I'm going to go over to the third area that I wanted to talk about. And it's one of the reasons why I'm glad my shirt came in, Reborn Kings. Protect your peace by all means. I am a big one on peace. I love it. And I go back to what my mentor, Dr. Lynn Lewis, said. There is no price too high for peace. And I think to me, that's the overarching message that I got from Kevin Samuels, is that you, Black man, you deserve peace. And so to jump over to the third area. So we have his points about relationship, his point about the Black community, but this is the main reason why I wanted to do this show as well. And that's just talking about the impact he had on Black masculinity. And in an era where now we have we're seeing men get beat up on TikTok videos. We're seeing them get things that we would never see or wouldn't be allowed to watch domestically happening with a woman. Men are getting chased, having women try to run over men in their cars, and almost guaranteed the first thing that, especially if you're watching it with the woman, the first words out her mouth is, well, what did he do to deserve it? it's almost like the Lorena and John Babbitt thing again. For those of you who are too young, go look it up, but not safe for work. It's one of those deals where the first thing is, oh, so what did he do to deserve to get his penis cut off? Would we ever question, well, what did she do to deserve to get her breast cut off? I mean, that we wouldn't even think that way.
No.
And to me, I think that's the thing that Kevin brought in, and why I always point out that it was through him that I got turned on to Dr. T. Hassan Johnson and his work, Tommy Curry and his work, because no one is out here speaking for Black men. And this is why I wanted to do my show, where I wanted to go in and talk about Black fatherhood, Black men and our issues, and how we look at the world. My Every Black Man Has a Story series that's going on. Be sure to check it out, y'all. Because Black men have some stories, and we die sooner than everyone else. We die with stories, and then here it is, Kevin Samuels dying at such an early age before anyone else. I'm in discussion now with one of my friends about the impact of life insurance, how we will take out a ton of life insurance for everybody else to live real good after we die. And, before you got somebody farting in your chair before your body is even cold, because they just let anybody come sit in daddy's old chair. And it doesn't matter. And everybody goes and lives well off of what we paid for. And the fact that Kevin Samuels pointed those things out and basically implied, this is what's going to happen when you leave here. This is how people view you. Then you sure better get some respect while you're here. Because if you providing that you're providing that financial support, you're providing protection, you're providing provision, then you darn near deserve some sex. You deserve some act right. You deserve even a level of, you deserve submission. If you are bringing these things to the table, as you said, then this is what she should bring. And I think a lot of Black men didn't even feel that they even knew how to ask for that. So to piggyback off what your last statement was, it's messed up that a lot of guys don't even know how to ask, because to be honest, they're seen as a wuss even for having to ask. It's like Neely Fuller as he does say, if you have to declare that you a man, are you really a man?
Right.
All right. So I guess let me ask you this. I heard a guy say today, actually, that if you're vetting a woman for a relationship, or even maybe to go out, but certainly for a relationship, bring up Kevin Samuels' name and ask her, just bring it up and see the look on her face. And then you may even want to ask her, so what do you think about it? And so if not you, because I think we see how you would think, but for your friends, would they rather run into a guy that listens or we'll just say follows a bit of Kevin Samuels? Or would they rather run into a guy that, let's say, follows Steve Harvey or one of those other celebrity dating gurus?
Oh, they would definitely probably run from the guy who listened to Kevin Samuels, and they would prefer somebody who listened to Steve Harvey, because that's definitely a more acceptable message that they're putting out.
Who would they really want to be with?
Wow. So I think that's a good question. I think that they would want to be with the guy who is standing up for himself and telling her what they need, but because of how off-putting Kevin Samuels can be for them, that they would turn away from that. So, and I say that because I have female friends who say, oh, men aren't as masculine and assertive as they were back in the day. Like, they don't know how to be men. And now you have it where these men are trying to reassert themselves, reassert their position as, I'm not just going to do whatever you ask me to do, but this is I don't even want to say a partnership, but we work together. That it's off-putting to them. Like, how dare you tell me that? How dare you demand this of me? This is who I am, and you need to accept me for who I am. And this is true. People do accept you for who you are, but it's not to say that we all can't put forth our best and we all can't give to our relationships to make the relationships work.
Wow. So that kind of puts us guys in the bind then, doesn't it? Because how can we be authentically ourselves and say, oh yeah, I listen to Kevin Samuels, but if you say it, she might not like it. She just wants you to follow his advice, but she doesn't want to know that that's where you got it from, kind of thing. She wants me to be that kind of guy. But it's almost like the old adage that they would say about sex in a relationship. Everybody looking for a freak. They just don't want to know how you got to be that way. And so in a way, isn't it kind of like that?
I would say it is exactly like that. And you're right. It does put men in a bind. So, you know, in my dating with some of these men, I'll just tell them like, hey, no, like I want you to be yourself because that's who I want to get to know. You don't just have to say platitudes. And I want you to tell me the truth. I'm okay with it. And I've had several on them the last few days to say, oh, yeah, that's fine and good until it's not. And then I'm saying, like, what do you mean? Like, that's like, I want you to be yourself because I'm vetting you too. And so I need to know what you're bringing, what you're offering and who you are as a person. If that's something I can accept and I can live with, and that's something I want to be with, you're a person I want to be with. So it's just interesting that it is this, I think, catch-22 for men where they feel like they may be walking on eggshells if they tell too much truth, or how do they present the truth without offending this woman. And I think on both ends, men and women need to be open to constructive criticism in their relationships, because that's really the only way we improve. Like, how do you, like, you don't know what blind spots you have until somebody else brings them to your attention. So if you're always like, no, I'm good and this is what I need, you're potentially missing out on someone who could be great for you because they call you out on your BS and tell you the truth. So it's really up to the individual if they do they want to be real with themselves, or do they want to continue living their own little fantasy world.
Have you ever had a guy tell you that, yeah, I listen to Kevin Samuels, or have you heard of Kevin Samuels? Have you ever had the discussion about Kevin Samuels with any guy that you were dating?
You know, I did, and they never bring up Kevin Samuels. I actually brought it up with one guy. I was like, hey, have you heard of Kevin Samuels? And he was like a little hesitant at first, like, oh, Kevin Samuels, I think I've
set me up. She set me up.
Yeah, I think I've heard of him. And then he opened up a little bit more once he realized that I was receptive to what Kevin Samuels had to say. And then he was like, oh yeah, I did hear about this one. I don't watch him all the time, but I did hear this one particular episode and blah, 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 blah. So.
So that didn't disqualify him, needless to say.
No, it didn't. Because at least I knew that we were at least on the same page and looking at the needs and wants of men and women, because I think that's what Kevin puts on his show. We have women calling in and say, I want this type of a man. And then he's saying, this is what this type of man is looking for. So at least put us on the same page in some regards.
Well, so is it fair to say that you would probably rather, we'll just say, entertain the company of a man that approached you that listens to Kevin Samuels than one who either denies it or just dismisses him as like, oh, I don't listen to that guy, he hates women?
Probably so. I would definitely still want to hear his point of view of why he doesn't like him and his perspective on him. Because maybe he's just picking out all the negative things that he says. And like I said, I don't agree with 100% of what Kevin Samuels had to say. So I'd have to see what type of a guy the date was, what his character was like, for me to make a final assessment, decision.
And that makes sense. I mean, it's funny because it's like, none of us, I don't agree with everything that my parents have ever said in their life. I don't agree with every one of their philosophies. I'm sure they probably trip out now. The older I get, I'm questioning certain things that, y'all believe this. I'm not, no, Or if you go into church, I hope somebody doesn't believe with every single thing position that the pastor holds at the church. If you do, you're probably in a cult, not a church. So, if it's, you better agree with me or else. So it's amazing that we do seem to have this litmus test that people want to give that disclaimer of why they didn't listen to my man. So as we get ready to close, any additional thoughts you would like to just share? Because again, I mean, I don't want it to be seen like we just trying to do a video to tag on because everybody's going to be searching YouTube, but I brought him up and he's been a big part of this show and he's been a huge part of our discussions. So anything you want to add as we get ready to close it out?
I just think, I think you can appreciate someone even if you don't agree with them. And I think just making a decision or judging someone based off of a few clips, that doesn't tell you the full message. It doesn't expose the full message. You actually have to dig a little bit. So I would encourage those who struggle with what he had to say to go listen to some more of his videos and just kind of really try to digest it, because that's really the only way you're going to grow, or any of us are going to grow, is if we listen and we interact with people who are very different and have a different perspective than what we have. So just check it out. And I'm with them. I want Black love all over the place.
Yeah.
I want the Black community to heal. I want us to support one another. I want us to love on each other. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So I think it's something that's achievable and that we can do it.
I will say that over the years of watching, him get more fame and notoriety, it seems that most of the women that I did find that were a bit more receptive to him and heard him out, they were married women. And they were oftentimes the women that, because I guess they weren't out here, they didn't have it, their egos weren't being nearly as bruised. And, as I've told you in the past, and Kevin used to bring this up as well, older women oftentimes don't look out for younger women. So it's kind of like they're snickering, thinking and saying the same thing that Kevin Samuels says, because they know it's true. But it's like, let them young girls go ahead and, yeah, y'all keep doing that. Y'all keep getting bigger. In the meantime, people our mother's age are kind of like, no, I know what a man like. I know what size he likes. I know what he's looking at. So y'all go ahead and do y'all thing. Because as I told my mom, women don't want the competition. So as long
don't
as
like that.
Don't like that. So they ain't taking market share from them. So with that being said, is there any social media that you would like to promote in case, because y'all, I asked Sheila about her dress size. I gave her, the Kevin Samuels treatment. She didn't know I was going to do this, but just to let y'all know that, when the sister's talking about, what she's learned, she is definitely together. And by the way, was this picture taken like 12 years ago or something like this? Was this you like 12 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. 12 years ago in November 2021.
Let me get back. Yeah, all the way back to like November 2021. So needless to say that this isn't some old picture back when, back when I was 18, I was built like, no, she is in the danger zone. And this is still how she doesn't look exactly like this, because I don't either. I mean, that was what we were in contest shape. But you definitely take care of yourself, and you're on the market. You're on the market.
Yes, I am.
All right. And you are open to a Kevin Samuels listening type of guy.
I am.
All right. So again, if there's no social you want to give out, fellas, I'll just say y'all go ahead and hit me up. Leave it down in the comments below, as everybody on YouTube says. Leave it down in the comments below. And I will be sure to connect y'all. I'll play Kevin Samuels in this case. I'll be sure to connect y'all so we can get this Black love going. Are you open to non-Black men?
I am open to non-Black men.
Ooh, it's gonna be on YouTube. It's never gonna go away now.
I am. I'm an equal opportunist.
See, that's what being single does to you, doesn't it? It's like, let me open up.
That's very true. This is a completely side note, but another competition is coming up in October, November. I'm working on it because I want to come in 5 pounds lighter than what I did before. So yes, I'm on it.
Because where are you about to go now?
Where am I about to go?
After we get done, where are you about to go?
Oh, to the gym. I got to get that workout in because I want Sunday off. So I got to get it in tonight.
So you spending Friday night at the gym?
Yes, I am. I am.
I just want you to know that was just like music to some man's ears right there. She going, what? You mean she ain't eating doggone Twinkies and Netflix?
No.
Wow. She the real deal, y'all. I'm gonna be your promoter. I'm gonna be your hype man. I'm gonna be your hype man. So
that's right. Let me go ahead and put my number out here. No. No, I'm just teasing. Leave a comment in the sections and I'll hit you up.
there you go. Don't y'all spam me. Don't y'all, and y'all better not send none of them eggplant pics, my email. So don't do that.
Just put at. No. I will take those. No, I'm just teasing.
Y'all see my girl got a sense of humor as well. And that, yeah, she is that funny. That's why we hang out, because she is that funny. So that's y'all seeing the normal her. So I will conclude this on my part. I do feel that this is such a loss for the Black community. I feel it's a loss in the so-called Black manosphere. And I'm so thankful for the time that we did have with that brother, because I think at the end, Black women and Black men, and I'm even encouraged by the number of white guys that I heard calling the programs today that were expressing just, the sadness that they even feel, because the things that he said really even resonated with them. So, because, and that goes again, I'm gonna say what Neely Fuller always said, they said it. And, Neely Fuller's simple with logic. How do we know what someone does is effective? Well, they said it. And the fact that what Kevin Samuel said, the fact that it resonated with so many people shows that it was truth. And sometimes we don't know what to do with that because we're not used to it. We're used to all of the other things layered on. It's like, no, that was just actually raw truth that he gave me. And that's what I'm going to miss the most. Not sure who's going to fill that vacuum, but I'm glad for the courage that the man gave me to speak up about a lot of issues. And certainly a lot of the other guys that are kind of attached to him out here on the web, out here in the YouTube world, that they're still making content. And I think they're going to make it with more boldness going forward, not even just from selfish trying to make some money. It's like, I now feel comfortable saying this. And you know what? I'm valuable enough because at the end of the day, I'm trying to protect my peace. I want to protect my peace. I don't care about the peace of anybody else. I'm trying to eliminate this emotional load off of me in order so I can be a better man. And, I end it with what they always say. When you're on that airplane, what do they tell you to do? They tell you to get your mask on first before you run and go save somebody else. And unfortunately, whether we're talking about learning in the church, whether we're talking about learning in school, whether we learn it from mama or simp daddy, we are always taught, especially Black men, you don't even get a mask. Matter of fact, you make sure everybody else has a mask first, and then we might give you one. And a lot of brothers die with nobody ever giving them a mask. And I want to go out like that, that's for sure. And I'm glad that Kevin Samuels kind of gave us the courage to say, no, y'all, I'm putting my mask on, but don't worry. Me being me, I'm going to come save you. You don't have to worry about that. I guarantee you I will still come save you, but I am going to save myself first. So with that, I want to thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I thank you for the entertainment that your cat provided, your brand new cat. And I told her it was fitting. She just got a cat. I'm like, oh, see, you didn't get a dog and die alone, but you got a cat.
I know. But I love her already. She's such a sweetie. But I was going to say, yeah, thank you for having me on the show. This has been great. This is just like an extension of all the other fantastic conversations that we have when we're out just hanging out and doing our thing. So I appreciate you and I appreciate this.
Oh, thank you. And I got to say, I look forward to competing with you again, since you brought it up, in a few more months.
That's
so
right.
Go get at it in that gym. Proud of you, cuz, and I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful that I can bounce these ideas off of you. So I will hope that you will come back for future shows as well. Even though I ain't doing a lot with Black women, but
I would love to.
All right, cool.
I would love to.
All right, y'all. If y'all like the video, please like and subscribe. My boy Mark got on me. He's like, man, I hate when people say they, like and subscribe and I haven't heard the video. So if y'all stuck with us this long, then please like and subscribe to the channel, like the video, pass, share. Again, not trying to capitalize on the death of anyone, but just really to pay homage to someone that certainly made us better because they put themselves out there. So feel free to share the information and check out some of the other videos. Check out Every Black Man Has a Story. listening to the stories of Black men, and check out the video that I did in the past about Kevin Samuels and the impact that he's having on men, especially Black men, as opposed to many Black pastors who have kind of really abdicated their, I'll say, responsibility to the Black men sitting in their church. And with that, I want to thank y'all. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.